Let's get a look at your money here on Good Morning Quad Cities. First, starting with the weekly stock market recap. The S&P 500 up 0.5%, NASDAQ down 0.2%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average up 0.8%. High inflation and rising prices have placed significant strains on all of our families and our budgets. The new September inflation report is showing that consumer prices rose yet again, another 0.4%. September marking the 40th consecutive monthly increase in consumer prices, the longest streak in 41 years. And joining us to talk more about this is our financial advisor, Mark Gravicheski, joining us live. Mark, good morning.
Morning to you. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. So what did this inflation report show you other than more bad news?
Well, if you put it that way, but it was a little bit mixed. But look, consumers have been struggling with high inflation now the past 2.5 years, and remember, any inflation rate above 2% is deemed excessive and causes undue strain on consumers, businesses, and ultimately the U.S. economy. But after falling to 3% in June, inflation has once again started to rise. In July, inflation jumped from 3 to 3.2%. 1 month later, in August, it goes even higher to 3.7%. But when you dive into this inflation data a little bit deeper, David, it reaffirms kind of what Wall Street is kind of concerned about, is that this high inflation has really become embedded, so to speak, within the economy. And that's a big problem, because it means it will likely take some time for that inflation to return to that, again, that target rate of 2% we all want to get back to. Now, the Federal Reserve is tasked with trying to get this high inflation under control. But it was just a few weeks ago we were talking about this on our segment here, David, that the Federal Reserve acknowledged that this high inflation will likely be with us for another 3 more years.
Wow, that is a long time. And how do you think that these higher rates are going to impact our willingness to spend money?
Well, David, we're already starting to see the impact these higher interest rates are having on consumers. And a great example are home buyers, to help get this high inflation under control. The Federal Reserve has been extremely aggressive in raising interest rates. But because inflation has become so problematic, and because it's become, so embedded within the economy, the Federal Reserve has been forced to push interest rates to a 22-year high. A great example are homes. The national average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage has now soared to 7.8%. Just 2 years ago, David, that average rate was all the way down to 2.75%. Now, assuming a family buys a $225,000 home and puts down a typical 20% down payment, that would increase that family's monthly principal and interest payment by $562, or roughly $6,800 a year. That's a substantial added financial burden being placed on household budgets. But whether it's mortgage loans, bank loans, car loans, or even credit cards, the interest rate consumers are paying are at or near a 22-year high.
Oh, wow. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you have to borrow money, and sometimes you're stuck between a rock and a hard place and you just have to do it. But when can we expect to see those interest